it's not just little old ladies anymore. It's not just crackpots like me, preppers and people getting stocked up on food because there is hard times coming. But friends, now we're seeing nation states that are making massive purchases of grain. We see countries who are getting stocked up because hard times are coming. We got some bad harvests coming in out there around the world, and it's causing some serious concerns. We see other countries who are proactively stocking up because of uncertainty and days ahead where grain supplies might dry up. We're going to be talking about massive purchases by China, Egypt, India, Jordan. We're going to see grain export bans. We're going to talk about what is really going on out there at a global scale. Yeah, you see that person who goes down the aisle of Costco and they got all that food and they're like, they look like a crazy person. Now, a lot of you guys have done that, and I have certainly done that, and to the point where we've been that person, right? But now we're seeing not just individuals doing that, but we're seeing countries. We got a lot to talk about. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and these updates are things that you will not see out in the mainstream media. These are things being brushed under the rug that we need to talk about. India's rice reserve. Let's start there. There's so many different places we could start. We could start in China, Egypt. Anyway, India's rice reserves. They're up 21.8% year over year. Remember that they had the rice export ban last year, where they were not allowing any of the lower quality rice to leave the country. All the cheap rice had to stay in India so that the price could stay down. Now the higher quality basmati and that type of stuff still could be exported at a high premium, but not the cheap stuff. Well, since last year, they've not just refilled their corporate coffers of and warehouses, but what they've done is that they have taken a whole bunch of this rice and they've put it aside. And so their rice reserves for their country are up by 21.8%. That's a big, big increase. They realize that there's problems coming, and they need to have food on hand. They've started making their first wheat purchases in 6 years. They haven't been purchasing wheat abroad, but now they are doing that. And why are they doing that? Because they know that they need to get food into their country. Now, we're hearing pretty good things about the U.S. crop this year of both wheat as well as corn. No word yet on the rice crop, but generally speaking, the main crops in the United States are looking good, and we're a major market food basket of the world, and we seriously make a big impact on the amount of food produced around the world. But there are other places that produce more food than the United States, and China is one of them. And China is having problems. China has been making massive efforts to increase their food production. 420,000 new acres of farmland just in the last couple of years. 420,000 acres of new farmland. That's a little bit of land. That's some new farmland. They're like taking regular land, turning it into farmland. Because they need to become less food dependent upon other countries. And how's that going for them? Well, it hasn't gone well for them. And this year, it's turning out bad again. India is doing a little bit better, but they are already going, we don't want to end up in the tight spot we were before. And so we need to get our stockpiles increasing. So first wheat purchases in 6 years, and they've dramatically increased their rice reserves. Jordan, 20% increase to their wheat reserves. Now, Jordan's not a country you probably thought about today or this week. You may not think about Jordan very much. You may not even know that Jordan's a country. But yes, it is indeed a country, and a Middle Eastern country that eats a lot of wheat. And they've decided that their wheat reserves need to be increased by 20%. Interesting that that's a very similar number to what we're seeing out of India with their rice reserves. So, I've just kind of hinted at the fact that China's revolution of agriculture out there, not going that well. They've had a lot of flooding. That's damaging a lot of crops down in the south of the country. They've had some droughts in other areas of the country. And this has been the last couple of years they've had some really bad luck when it comes to growing food. And some could point to the fact that maybe, just maybe, their massive projects to produce power, their hydroelectric dams, were badly designed in such a way that it's forcing them to basically flood their fields and farmland in some of the most rich areas that they have. Anyway, whether it's their fault or whether it's just the weather, brings it to the same place where their harvests are gone really bad. And because of that, they're increasing their grain imports. They made just a massive order of 60 million metric tons. And this is up 4 million tons from, on average over what they normally do. In the spring, they put in some massive orders for corn and sorghum. Double the usual rates just this past spring. So we're seeing them making massive purchases of grains. 60 million metric tons. Basically, that should get them through the end of this year's purchases. So they shouldn't have to purchase the rest of this year. And so some people are like, well, they're just getting ahead on things. They're purchase it now, they won't purchase the rest of the year. But that doesn't seem like what the case is going to be. It looks like they made this massive purchase, and it looks like they're going to continue making smaller purchases as they continue going through the rest of the year. That this was all going into the reserves, to build up their reserves because they realize that their harvests are looking really, really bad this year. And obviously, I think we all kind of generally get the clue that China is a big country with lots and lots of people. And so when they need to make some major purchases, they swing the numbers pretty dramatically. The fact that China is the largest importer of food in the world probably doesn't surprise anybody. They produce a massive amount of food, but the problem is they eat a massive amount of food too. And they waste a whole lot of food too. That's a whole nother conversation. Their government has cracked down on them. Just to give you an idea, out of the entire world, if you were to say, where are all the soybeans? All the soybeans that haven't been eaten yet, and they're sitting in a silo somewhere. 38% of all the soybeans in the entire world are sitting in a silo in China. That's a pretty big number. Of all the wheat berries out there in the world, 55% of the wheat is sitting in a silo in China. 55%. Gee, are they getting ready for something? Are they anticipating something? And China doesn't eat wheat mostly, right? Mostly what they eat is rice. So you kind of expect that number to be even higher, and it is. 65% of the world's rice that's not eaten yet is sitting in China, Chinese storehouses. And 70% of the world's corn reserves. Because they got to feed that to the cattle so they can have nice, tasty beef. Okay? When we look at where the grain is sitting in the world, we see that most of it is sitting in China. China is building up massive oil reserves. They're building up a massive grain reserve. And their purchases, now they have this much grain, and then they thought, hey, why don't we put in an order for 60 million more metric tons of grains? Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? And massive orders this spring. They're not like, gee, 70% of the world's corn is enough. We're cool. They're like, let's get more. And it's frustrating me sometimes because I talk to you guys all the time, and I'm always telling you, like, get stocked up. Get more stocked up. People say, what should I do about investment? You know, I talk about silver and everything like that, but then every time I talk about silver, what do I also talk about? I say, but first, if you have more storage, if you have more places to put food, buy more food. Buy more food. Investing in silver is when you don't have enough space to stockpile any more food, okay? And when you don't have enough room to stockpile any more silver, that's when you buy gold. And so that's why I don't have any gold, because I don't have enough money to like make that make any sense. Every time someone starts advocating for gold, I start, I don't know, like, yeah, I don't have money like that. Okay, I owe money on my house. I bought my first new car because I've had some really bad car issues in the last couple of years, and even my new car is not a new car because who can afford buying a new car? And I bought like the lowest, I bought like the second cheapest kind of car on the lot as well, and it was years old, right? So it's just like, I don't know. People talk about buying gold. I'm like, I wish I was that well off, and maybe in years in the future I will be. But stock up on food. Yeah, China is stocking up on gold. They're stocking up on a ton of silver. They're buying a lot of silver. But they're buying food. Lots and lots of food. They're building massive storehouses to house all the grain that they're purchasing. They might know something. But it's not just China, not just India. Let's talk about what else is going on out there. France, their wheat harvest has been exceptionally bad this year. Exceptionally bad. Places across Europe are having bad harvests. Russia, they're having some major production challenges. They have a lower planted area, and they have lower yields, less acres and less per acre. So we're not getting hard numbers out of Russia. Can you believe that they don't trust the West with information on that kind of stuff? But from satellite imagery and stuff online, they basically are, Western experts are projecting that Russian wheat production is going to be down this year. And Russia is a massive producer of wheat. USA, we already have a 2% increase in our winter wheat. That's the projections for what already has come in. And it looks like the summer wheat is going to be pretty good. Corn is looking fairly good. So, but as we look around the world, we're going to see that the United States looks good, but a lot of other places in the world are having some production challenges. And because of that, that means that the United States has to pick up the slack for the rest of the world. And that's a pretty big burden. And on top of that, the United States has to get the grain out of the farms before it rots. And if we have issues on the Mississippi River again this year, that's going to cause problems, because last couple of years we've lost a bunch of the grain that was harvested but didn't get off the farms. It rotted in place. When you have them piling up corn and wheat on the ground without proper facilities, whenever farmers don't have the proper facilities, they lose a portion of the crop, right? And so that's been a reality the last couple of years as rail issues, barge issues, transportation in the United States is falling apart. we can't get the crops off the farms. So even if we have a great harvest, the next question is can we get that harvest to market and into good storage where we can dry it out and properly store it? Because right now, most farmers don't have the facilities to store enough of it on their farms. Now, people who know more about farming, go ahead and correct me on things, but that's my understanding from the farmers and the people who know farmers and all that kind of stuff like that we've been talking to. So we have major countries out there stocking up. And did I cover Egypt? I feel like I did not cover Egypt, but Egypt just put in a massive order for grain. I don't have it in my notes here, but they put in a massive order to Russia to get lots and lots of wheat because they're afraid of revolution in their country if they don't have enough food. Egypt is a major country. They have a large population. Is it like 80 million or something like that in the Middle East? And of course, they've had revolutions sparked by the CIA. And anyway, when they don't have food prices under control. And of course, food prices have been going up through the roof around the world. And as food prices go up, we start seeing countries start changing their governments. And that's what happens. And some of these countries that know that are subsidizing their food because they do not want their people to change their government. Okay? Can you imagine governments that don't want people to change their government? So we see a lot of countries out there trying to stockpile food to get ahead of this inflation, get ahead of the shortages that are coming. And they see problems on the horizon. And so you and I should be looking at the horizon too and noticing things like Walmart. It's just like, hey, yeah, you know, the cheap rice, the 20-pound bags of rice, we're just not going to stock those anymore in a lot of places. Why is that? Well, friends, we should be asking those type of questions, shouldn't we? We should be asking why the price of rice continues to go up so dramatically. We should ask the question of why all the food prices are going up so dramatically. And we should ask the follow-up question, will they continue to go up dramatically? And if so, maybe we need to do something about that to prepare ourselves and to protect ourselves. And yeah, it's because the dollars in your pocket won't be worth as much tomorrow as they will be today. You can get more rice today with $1 than you can next year, next month. So if you have some dollars, buy some food because you know it's going to get more expensive. Like that's the safest investment you can possibly make. Buy food that you're going to eat tomorrow, today. And if the lights go out, if major crisis comes, I promise you, you'll look at that food storage that you have and you'll feel better, you'll feel safer than if you don't have it. Well, friends, get stocked up as best you can. One of the things you can get stocked up on too is energy products. Opus has a big Labor Day sale. It's National Preparedness Month. And they have a big sale going on for a lot of their battery packs. And they put out some good stuff. So you might want to check out that. If you're looking at getting a battery pack, I'll put a link down in the pinned comment down below. That way you can check that out, check out their sale, and see if any of those products are a good thing. Generally speaking, Opus is cheaper than other companies' battery packs. They're good quality and they're cheaper than the other ones. That's why I like working with them, is because they've been doing that historically. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up there. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.